My relationship with nature, I would say I tend to find a lot of joy and peace by being outdoors. And so I love getting out as much as I can, especially since I work from home. I tend to get kind of isolated and have like my routine day after day after day. And so being able to get out in nature on the weekends or whenever I can is a way to break out of that cycle and do something totally different. But I also find that I get really inspired when I'm out in nature, especially if there are really good views or if I'm working really hard, like if it's a challenging hike where my blood is pumping and I feel like I had to, work and like achieve something to get to the top of it or the end of it, then I'm pretty fulfilled at the end of that. So yeah, I get really inspired by the views, and plus I think just being outdoors does something to human beings. Like we just can thrive when we're out in nature, it like resets, and then like the challenge of it, I just love that. So that's my relationship with nature. I would say it's pretty necessary to my well-being. So that's outdoors, where I run like 4 to 6 miles just in my neighborhood, and then pretty much every weekend I'm outdoors doing something at least one of the days. So in the summers, that's usually going to be hiking or mountaineering, and then or mountain biking, which I'll in the summers too. I'll do that after work as well. So maybe like 3 to 5 days a week in the summers, and then when the weather turns bad in the wintertime, I'm mostly just snowboarding outside. I say mountain biking is easy for me to get a flow state. Snowboarding is the same way because in both of those activities, you have to be locked in and paying complete attention to what's going on with you and the bike and the trail. So if you get distracted at all, you'll probably fall off the bike or like get injured. And so it forces you to get locked in to where the only thing you can think about is just what's coming next up the trail. And it turns into this really beautiful experience where you're like kind of aware of what's going on around you, but you can't really look and see what's going on because you got to pay attention. So it's cool at just kind of keeping you locked in pretty much every time. Yeah. In those two activities, I guess the times where I wouldn't get into that state maybe is if I were going slower and I have like, let's say I'm at the ski area with a bunch of friends who are beginners and I'm just paying attention to them. In that case, I'm not really getting into flow state, even though I'm still snowboarding. I'm going to be paying attention to them around me. So yes, when I'm out snowboarding with friends that are like at a similar skill level and we're both just able to have fun, it adds to the experience because I look over at my friend and he just hit a little jump on his snowboard and that stokes me up, and then I go and try to do something cool that I feel like is like making me more into the flow state, and we just start feeding off of each other. So I think friends in those activities do like they kind of spin you up a little bit, like you're it's like a wave, like a sine wave, and then another one gets added to that and it makes it twice as large. Mm. I think there is something about the stillness or the quietness of the outdoors that probably subconsciously contributes to that. So yeah, having the views, but even if I'm just like in the woods with no views, which is not my preferred hike, I don't really like those as much. But I think there is still something to the practice of just like moving through those silent spaces that kind of recenters my mind in a way that like helps me just kind of tune out.
I'm not used to this treadmill, so having to figure out how to increase the speed. Start my watch. I'm gonna flip my phone over. My buddy just texted me, and that would totally be distracting while I'm running. I'm an experienced runner. I feel like I know my like right stride length and stuff. So I just got up to the speed where I feel like this is about where I want to be. I'll take the speed down a little bit. So I'm just getting adjusted. Just getting a feel for the treadmill like on and just kind of settling into the run. Make sure all my metrics are going on my watch. Yeah. When I'm on a treadmill, I like to kind of focus on one thing in the distance and then let my mind just kind of ease into that thing. And then anytime people walk by, kind of notice I'm not in the it's not even hyper focus, it's just like relaxed, like tunnel vision, relaxing my eyes. It's like my eyes sharpen up again and I'm looking at the faces of each of these people, which then makes me think about the treadmill and the fact that I've creeped up on the console again. Just chilling. I'm feeling pretty settled, yeah. A little sweaty, like feels like I'm in the run now, I'm warmed up. It's like the sweat is a distraction first, and then the shirt is removing the distraction. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, like noticing the sweat first takes me out, and then removing it lets me get back in. It was a series of miniature flow states So it was actually kind of surprising how quickly it happened. Within the first couple minutes, I would say. I was looking around, and then I don't know if you want to film, but there's this green tree right in front of me. If you just step right in front of my treadmill, you can see that pine tree.
Yes.
That's what I kept focusing on. Definitely here. That would be better for me. So there are these attack treadmills around where you just run and then they follow you at your pace. I think if I were outside, yeah, it'd be a lot easier. Yeah, specifically, the people that are distracting me are going left to right. Outside is more quiet. The noise is more consistent. Probably, yeah. I wasn't thinking about anything outside of this run, but I think that's probably part of me being practiced and like just being able to focus on the activity versus maybe if I had a lot of anxiety about something or something later in the day that I thought I was gonna be late for, then I might be more distracted. I noticed a couple times when I was entering the flow state that my breathing would do this thing where it would go, I would just kind of exhale. And then I noticed that my eyes would kind of get blurry a little bit, like I wasn't focusing anymore. I was just kind of relaxing. My jaw would kind of relax. I talked through all that on the mic, but yeah, I noticed that pretty consistently. Just relaxing my gaze long into the distance. Actually, you can look way further here for that window. This is kind of interesting. Instead of people going side to side as much, it's more. It happened for a couple seconds there, and then I was reminded that I don't have to think left and right on the my watch, going, pacing. This pace numerically seems slower. I was like 7:45 pace over there. Here I'm 7:55. We'll see how that eases out. Noticing people walking through the gym. Cute girl, always distracting. Notice I get too far back and then I have to go forward to keep running with it at the pace I want. Just chilling. I wouldn't tell myself just chilling normally, but doing it for this video actually seems to help me ease my mind into the flow state. Just chilling. Not looking at people, looking at the ground. It's pretty nice. So one thing I do notice, there are people walking toward me here, which is what I had assumed would be less of a distraction. But now I'm noticing that they're in my field of view for so long. Noticing the treadmill, my footfall. Yeah. Those windows are way wider. I talk way more field of view. So anytime somebody enters my field of view, I get distracted by it. Whereas out there, those bushes were blocking people mostly. So way fewer distractions. Whereas if I think if I were outside, I would just be able to slow down, no problem, flow. And then if I feel like I'm going too slow, I can pick it up later instead of immediately being notified of it. Very briefly.
Oh.
Yeah, much shorter than over there.
Okay.
Yeah, way less noticeable.
Okay.
The watch, so the tools, yes, because they can help me check in on myself metrically to know where I'm at on my heart rate. It's like on this watch, right now I know my cadence because I have a pedometer on, and I know my heart rate because I have a heart rate monitor on that's more accurate than this watch. So if I start feeling tired, I can check the heart rate to see if I'm truly tired and then ease back And then once my heart rate goes into an appropriate range, I can keep going. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, it's just so much different running on ground after running on the treadmill. Like, easing into it. Took me out of it. Yeah, I was there. I'm slowing down. Cool. Good. Yeah, it's always a little weird. I forgot about this, but running outside after being on the treadmill always feels funny for the first few steps. Which I said into the mic, it's because the ground isn't moving for you, you know, you're having to move, but I quickly settled in and it was just like so nice and natural and way easier to focus. Didn't matter who was around me because I could just look away or look. I noticed that I looked down at the ground to enter the like flow state more, so I wasn't staring at people and it's available to me. So I just kind of settled in. Going downhill was easy. Yeah, normally there's like a boot up time when I'm going outdoors, especially if I'm running for the first time after a few weeks. I love running so much that it feels great to just be out there, and I start running faster from the start because it's like joyful. But if I've run like 2 or 3 times in a week, my body is used to it and kind of tired already. So going out for a run feels like there's more inertia that I have to overcome. So it's much more mental for me, and that's where I set the 5-minute rule that like I'm not allowed to quit before I've run for 5 minutes, you know? And so I get to 5 minutes, and normally then the run is kind of like taking care of itself, and I can kind of be in that flow state. I'm not constantly thinking like, oh, my legs are like, I feel tired, this feels hard, I don't want to do this, I'd rather be X, Y, or Z. So things that I like, it was really nice to be in a setting that like wasn't really moving quickly around me. I was moving through the setting. So like next to the trees, I was like, oh, I'm still kind of distracted by people. And then I ran past the bushes and I saw that there were like the tennis courts over there. And I just looked out over the tennis courts and like the sky and like all of these slow moving things helped me feel like I was just kind of like part of the world versus like things that are moving through my periphery, you know, that was more distracting for me. I noticed the wind when I was running back because the wind is blowing from this direction, so I didn't notice it when I was going out. And then when I came back, it was a distraction because I could feel it, I could hear it in my ears. And so I had to think about that, like, oh, the wind is blowing, that means that I'm running into resistance, you know. It's like it sets off this chain of thoughts for me, which is distracting. I focus mostly on my body and like making sure my feet, like everything from the waist down, making sure that it's running really smoothly. I'm not putting in too much effort. It's kind of taking care of itself. I'm in good biomechanical form. So that's mostly what I focus on, my cadence, how my steps are landing. But I didn't really notice anything going on outside. Think about the people that I was running around or that were coming up to make decisions. Also thinking about not looking at people or staring at people, you know. But then I noticed that my head went to the ground, and then once I started looking at the ground, it was like, oh, there's another thing that's like not changing in front of me, so I could just like zone out and just focus on that for a while, which was helpful. Yeah, probably going somewhere other than here because there's a big crew race today that's happening, so everybody's parked in that parking lot and walking back and forth. So I think there are a lot more people here than normal, so maybe if we were across the street on the Burke-Gilman, or if we had driven to like a park somewhere to run, probably far fewer distractions.
Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I sweat. Well, my sweat is like taken care of, whereas there I was getting so wet and sweaty. Whereas out here, I love it because I'm staying dry because the wind, like, it's evaporating, you know? A big help. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that while I was running too, that I wasn't having to focus on going side to side, you know? It's just so nice. I can just run.
I think, thank you, Chris. That was awesome.
Yeah, of course, man.